Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar and Q&A session with the Head of Professional Services, Giles Garnett, who will show you how to A/B test with Dux Soup. The live chat is monitored by Jin, the Head of Customer Support. So thank you so much for joining us today, and let's start our webinar.
Hello and good morning, good afternoon or good evening to you wherever you may be in the world, and thank you for joining us despite there being the World Cup on at the moment. Yeah, thank you for joining us for the latest in our series of Dux Soup webinars. My name is Giles, and I'm head of customer. No, I'm not head of customer services. That's Jin's job. Head of professional services here at Dux Soup. Jin's head of customer support. Let's get that the right way around. That's a good start, isn't it? Today we're going to talk about how you can use Dux Soup to assist you in maximising your LinkedIn conversion results by using A/B testing. Basically working out which approaches work best for you. While I'm presenting and talking, as always, please raise any questions you have via the questions box, and Jin will do her best to answer these, any that are applicable. And of course, if there are any applicable, I'll answer those at the end of the webinar. Try and keep your questions on topic. If you have other questions, you can go to our support pages. As always, the webinar is being recorded and will be made available to you in the coming hours if you registered, and via our website and YouTube channel in the next day or so. Because I'm going to be mainly looking at campaigns and how the metrics available to you through the Dux-Dash can help you, this webinar is primarily focused on Dux Soup Turbo. However, the theory of A/B testing can be applied to Dux Soup Pro as well. You just need to be really organized in how you approach things and build a process as to how you measure the outcomes of your different approaches. Just a heads up, so that we are focusing primarily on campaigns and the Dux-Dash in Turbo. But as I say, you can apply it to Pro if you do the extra legwork as well. So let's crack on with today's topic. So very quickly, just in case anybody's stumbled across this webinar on the YouTube page or whatever, and what is Dux Soup? It's a Chrome extension compatible with other browsers which are built on the Chrome platform, and which you can use to mimic human behavior on the LinkedIn platform. And that's free LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, and Recruiter. You basically select the list of prospects you want Dux Soup to process, and then you get Dux Soup to run your chosen activities against that list. And Dux Soup is designed to mimic human behavior. That's the ethos of Dux Soup, is having everything running through the browser. It looks like it's a human being interacting on the website. And if you want more details, you have those two links there available. There's our support pages there on the left, support.dux-soup.com, and our blog page, which you can find via our homepage. We can find loads and loads more information about how to use Dux Soup. There's all sorts of tips and tricks and guides, etc., etc. So on to today's topic. What do we mean by A/B testing? In case anybody is new to this and thinking, oh, what are they talking about when it comes to A/B testing? Now, it's also known as split testing. As you may see, split testing, A/B testing, it's essentially an interchangeable term. It's an experiment where two or more variants of something are shown to users at random, and a statistical analysis is used to determine which variation performs better, which sounds great. So slightly more simply put, comparing two versions of something to see which works better. I think that's a slightly more simple explanation, to be honest. So we're going to take, in our case, we're going to look at two versions of a connection request message and see how they compare, see how they perform. And then we can measure and decide which one we want to go forward with. Oh. And why do we A/B test? Why would you want to? So basically, because you have a desired outcome and you want to give yourself every chance to achieve that. You've got maybe a connection request conversion rate of 10%, and you want to try and increase that. So you want to give yourself what variables can you change in order to achieve that. You want to maximize the effectiveness of your processes. If you're sending out 200 invites per week, you want to get as many acceptances as possible. Yeah, you're never going to achieve 100%, but you certainly want to increase. You want to check which approach is most appropriate for your audience. Every industry, every geographical region is slightly different. Everyone has their own nuances. So yeah, every audience might be slightly different in the way they react, and you want to measure the impact of changes. If you change your messaging, what's the impact? If you go for a different approach, why are you seeing a different result? So that's why you would A/B test. Testing with Dux Soup Turbo. So hopefully you're familiar with a lot of the terminology I'm going to come out with here with regards to Dux Soup Turbo, but how can we A/B test with Dux Soup Turbo? So step one would be to decide on your target audience. You've got to define your list of prospects. Without that, you've got nowhere to start. And of course, and I always say this, the more time you put in upfront to define your list of targets, the better your chance of success. Use the Boolean search terms. Have a look through our blog pages and look for the search and filtering blog. The more you can narrow down your audience, the more suitable it is to your target. So do spend time doing that. So you've got your target audience. Now you're going to build some campaigns. So you may have slightly different messaging, and I've got an example to show you in a minute, some ideas. Different messages. Now, primarily, of course, we're going to be looking into here connection request messages, because we're looking at basically getting people from moving us from a second and third degree connection to being a first degree connection. So your connection request message is key here. That's the key that's going to either trigger someone to accept your connection request, ignore your connection request, or at least visit your profile. So yeah, you want to build your campaigns with different messages. Then you're going to enroll a number of prospects into each campaign, and then you can monitor and evaluate the results in the Dux-Dash in the funnel flow, and then take your appropriate action, and then modify your approach, etc., to then see what the impact of those changes are. So we're talking about A/B testing, but in this case, in my example today, I'm going to show you ABC test. I've actually got 3 variants here. So I've actually built 3 different campaigns in Dux Soup. Campaign A has got a detailed connection request message, which goes on about common interests and wanting to be engaged, etc. So there's it's a bit more wordy. Campaign B, my connection request is a little bit more simple. It's, hey, we're a member of the same discussion group. Wouldn't it be great to be connected? And then I've got campaign C, and I thought I'd chuck this. This was a bit of a last-minute decision. I'll chuck this one in where there's no connection request message, just to see what happens. Now, of course, you can actually build as many campaigns as you like with Dux Soup. So the possibilities are huge. But in this case, I just wanted to have some sample data to be able to show you how easy it is to do this. So we've got our 3 campaigns, and then we can just monitor through the funnel flow, and hopefully some of you are familiar with how this graphic looks here. Now I've done 3 campaigns here, and I've enrolled 25 people into each campaign. Now, handle this data with care, because this is just sample data. Let's go into Dux Soup and have a look, and hopefully you can see my screen, my LinkedIn page. Now, I always say to people, if you're new to Dux Soup or any of these webinars, send me a connection request. This is me on LinkedIn. Happy to engage with people who are using Dux Soup. Please mention Dux Soup in your connection request message, because then I know how you found me. I'm far more likely to accept your connection request if you mention Dux Soup in there. So this is me on LinkedIn anyway. So if we go into our Dux-Dash, because that's where we need to go to define our campaign. So I'm going to go down to our Dux-Dash here, and we'll just wait for this to load, and we'll go to our drip campaigns. Now we can see here, hopefully I've not edited them. Let's have a look. So I've got here three separate campaigns. Campaign A here, I've labeled them A, B, and C just for simplicity's sake. Of course, you'd probably use something different in your real world examples. But here I've got my, I noticed we have a similar interest in growth hacking activities and having similar interests myself. I wonder if you'd like to connect so we can share ideas. So I've put a bit of effort into my campaign there. I'm doing basically a search against people who are growth hackers on LinkedIn, and that's my connection request. Now, I've not gone into detail here and put in a great long campaign, because all I'm looking here at is purely the conversion from being second or third degree connection to being a first degree connection. I could, of course, add a number of other touch points into my campaign here in order to prompt a response, because that would be the next stage as well, to get them to actually reply to me. So here, that's my campaign. Campaign B, slightly more direct. I spotted you're also a member on, oh, I've got a spelling mistake in there. I was playing with this earlier, and there we go, let's save that. I spotted you're a member of such and such a group and wondered if you'd like to connect. A little bit more simple, a little bit more straightforward. So that's my campaign B. Campaign C, no text in my connection request. Dux Soup will still send a connection request even though I've got no text in there, because of course a message in your connection request is optional in LinkedIn. So here I've got my 3 different campaigns that I've enrolled 25 people against each of the campaigns. So yeah, enrolled 25 against each campaign, and now let's go and see how easy it is to see those results after a period of time. Now, of course, in a real life example, you would probably be looking to enroll a larger number of people. You wouldn't just rely on 25 results. You'd be looking maybe 100, maybe 200 people per campaign, and then you can make a better judgment on the outcome. I'm looking at very small sample sizes here. So if I go to my funnel flow here, hopefully all of this is familiar with you, and I go down to my campaign. Oh, here we go, down to campaign B, A, B, and C. So we can see here, there we go. So I've got here campaign A. I've got 25 people enrolled, 25 invited. That's because they were all 2nd and 3rd degree connections. And in this case, 24% accepted. So 6 out of 25 have accepted so far. This has only been running for a short period of time. So yeah, that's the result I'm getting from campaign. Remember, campaign A was my, hey, I noticed you have an interest in, that was the engagement level there. So campaign B, let's have a look at campaign B. Here we go. So again, I've got 25 enrolled, 25 invited, only 5 accepted. Now this is where I'm just saying, hey, you're also a member of such and such a group. It's a little bit more, a slightly more simple connection request message. So I've got 20% enrolled here, accepted here. And if we go down to campaign C, this is the one without the connection request message. So here I've got 25 enrolled, 25 invited, only 2 so far have accepted. So we can see here quite a difference between putting a connection request message in and not putting a connection request message in. Now I'm also actually targeting people in a specific group here, and it's a huge audience, so it's not like it's a real niche group here. It's a very large group it's a discussion group with a large population. So here, I mean, I've only been running this for a few days, so it's not a long running campaign this, but so far, you know, I can take some early conclusions from this insofar as, you know, my campaign A is at the moment running a little bit more positively than certainly campaign C, and campaign B is there or thereabouts. So here we can see how easy it is, you know, if we go back to our drip campaign here, you can basically create, you know, a campaign. You can then clone it and edit it, and then clone it again and edit it. So you can build up as many campaigns as you like, and then just see how they perform over time. Now, you could also break down your performance numbers there by date. So you could look at, you know, certain time scales here. You can always select your date range here, be it a custom date range. So you can see week by week how things are performing. So you've always got that option here in the funnel flow as well. And you can also extract all of this data. So you can always copy all of this into an Excel spreadsheet as well. So you've got all of the information available to you there to be able to pull out the pieces in more detail. But, you know, for example, an old example that I've got here is, you know, for example, I've run in the past, I've run a campaign towards growth hacking groups in English and also in Dutch. So I've got 2 separate campaigns here, for example. One's a little bit more extensive than the others, but, you know, there's also an example there where, depending on what language you're targeting people in, you could, for example, A/B test there as well. So there's all sorts of possibilities with regards how you can do that. So really, the theory is about sort of creating a baseline, having essentially a methodology, a process in place, and then seeing what the impact of variations are to that. It's as simple as that. Of course, I've added an extra layer there by saying, okay, well, let's have a 3rd campaign with no connection request message, because I can, because the facility is there to be able to do it. And yeah, you can then see the data. over time how it works. So when you're doing your A/B or ABC testing, in this case, let's go back to our slides a second, and let's just nip back to here. The audience is of paramount importance. The more effort you put up front there is absolutely, and it's something I always talk about on webinars and when I do consultancy calls. The more effort you put up front, the better the numbers you're going to get anyway. Then it's as simple as enrolling your prospects, and hopefully you're familiar with how you enroll prospects. Let's just go over that a second, just so you're aware. So if, for example, let's go into Sales Navigator and do it from there, because that's a slightly more familiar environment that a lot of users, especially power users who are using lead generation and Dux Soup, etc. Let's go into here. Let's go to the groups here. Let's just go to growth hacking. So that's just discussion group I was using as my example here. There we go. So here you go. I've got 18,000 people here. So say, for example, I wanted to enroll a bunch of these people into my campaign. I would go, I've got my Dux Soup icon has turned green. I can click up here and I would say enroll profiles. And then I could say, right, well, which campaign do I want to enroll them into? So maybe I wanted to enroll a number into campaign A. And here I would say, yeah, enroll. Well, maybe I just want to enroll 25, press OK. And then what I'd probably do is then I'd go to the next page of my results, next page, and then enroll 25 into campaign B, and so on and so forth. That way you can then make sure that you are enrolling people into the appropriate campaign in a very simple way. Because you can choose how many you enroll, let's go back there, here in the drop down, you're always having control over how many you're putting in there. Remember, you can never enroll people into the same campaign twice, but you can enroll people into multiple campaigns. But if they've already got a connection request from one campaign, you can't send them another one. So just be aware of that as well there. So that's something to bear in mind as well when it comes to doing this, if you're trying to sort of think about how many people you're putting into your campaigns in order to test. Now, I mentioned earlier, you could also do this with Pro. It would be a little bit more complicated. And if we just go to our Dux Soup options, of course, what you'd need to do then if you were using Pro, and I'll just zoom in a bit because I know that tends not to be very visible on GoToWebinar. So of course, if you were doing this in Pro, you wouldn't have the campaigns, but what you could do is you could come up with different connection request messages here and tag people with the appropriate tag, so you know how you'd invited them, maybe with message invite message 1 or invite message 2, for example, and then you would monitor them through that to see who ends up as a first degree connection by checking your new connections in LinkedIn. It would take a little bit more time and effort, but it can be done. So yeah, you'd need to think about how you do that from that point of view. Okay, so we've talked about what A/B testing is, why A/B test, or how to do it with Dux Soup, and then also to see how your results look there in the funnel flow. So my top tips for A/B testing. First of all, what's your desired outcome? What's your success? What defines success for you? Is it, what we tend to believe is if you're getting more than 20-25% acceptance rate, that's pretty good. Now you can always improve, but how much effort do you need? How much more do you need to do to get it up to 30, 35, 40%? You need to think about what's realistic and what you've historically achieved as well. You've got to decide an appropriate sample size. How big is your population that you're targeting? Have you got maybe hundreds of thousands of targets, in which case you need to have a reasonable sample size to be able to make a qualified decision and come up with something that's actually valid. You can't just send out 10 and think, yeah, that's a good result. Yeah, that'll do me. Don't preempt your results. Make sure that you give time for the process to run. So, don't just say, send out your campaign over a week and then the next week you say, yeah, that's my decision made, because it can take people time to accept your invites or to respond to your messages. You need to leave this to run for, I think, probably a month is the sort of period you're looking at. Most people will, if you've not heard back from people when you've invited them over a month, I tend to believe they're either ignoring you or they're not logging onto LinkedIn, perhaps. So I tend to believe that a month is a pretty good window of time to give people enough opportunity to respond. Yeah, don't preempt your results. Don't second guess things. Let the thing run, and then make your decision based upon the data. Be consistent in your approach. Don't sort of have the scattergun approach. Think, oh, I'm going to try this message today and this message tomorrow. Have method in your process and in the wording. And if you're wanting to build good messages, build good campaigns, always think about how you would feel if you received such a message. Make it feel realistic, and yeah, try and build empathy with people, because you've got a better chance of people responding then. So be consistent in your approach, and be prepared to change your views and retest. You know, things change, people's attitudes change, people's behaviors change over time. So what works today probably didn't work 3 years ago. Things do evolve and change over time. So be prepared to have that flexibility and evolve your messaging and your approach. You may have different groups you may have different personas that you're targeting. So for example, higher level execs compared to maybe, I don't know, engineers, or different people will have different groups of people will have different acceptable different norms that they will respond better to. And the only way you'll learn from that is by testing and evaluating your results. I've come to the end of my slides and my demo, so I'm going to say to Jin, can you see if there are any questions? If people haven't put their questions in, then please feel free to do so. And while Jin is doing that, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be doing sort of a festive themed webinar. It's the last one before the holiday break, as it were. Yeah, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be talking about sending out some festive greetings to your LinkedIn connections, and there are a few spot prizes on offer during the course of the webinar. But of course, you have to join live in order to be able to get hold of those prizes. So there's hopefully an incentive for you to register and log on and watch it live in 2 weeks' time. So yes, the usual links are on the website. You'll get the appropriate emails, etc., etc. If you're a Dux Soup user, then yeah, feel free to enroll yourself into the webinar in 2 weeks' time. Jin, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have one question. Would you be able to show replies in funnel flow, how they look on Turbo, please?
Yes, of course. Now, I don't have any replies against my particular campaigns, but I can show you how they look against another campaign. Let's go back here. Let's go to the funnel flow. Let's just choose another campaign, because I think it'd be probably better. Where's the one that I was doing the other day? Yeah, this one here. So let's take this as an example. So here, if somebody responds to your message, you see here, these are the people who've, this is an old campaign which I've been playing around with a bit in the past for different reasons. So here, for example, I can see that I've got a number of people who've accepted my invite. Some of the people I enrolled into this campaign were already first degree connections, which is why you see a different number of invited compared to enrolled. But here you can see, for example, what people have responded with. So there we are. There's a response there. This is a very old one, which is why I've got some. Let's take this one here. So here we go. Yeah. So there, I've got here a response there. So there's my connection request, and there's the response from the individual coming through there. Dux Soup captures the responses, and of course who's accepting your connection requests via what we call the message bridge, which does a periodical check every so many minutes. It happens in the background of Chrome. What you'll see is periodically a new tab opening up at the top of the page here. And yeah, Dux Soup then gathers the data from those incoming messages and puts them here in the responded bracket here for you to be able to and see those here. That's also what the mechanism that Dux Soup uses in order to identify who's accepted your connection request message as well. So that's the message bridge function that happens in the background there. So yeah, when you've got complete set of data, if you're doing A/B testing, of course, you'd see enrolled, invited, accepted, number of follow-ups that have been sent out, and also hopefully the number of people who've responded to your message as well. But yeah, as I say, give your testing time to happen. Any further questions, Jin?
Just another question. Will a follow-up stop if a prospect replies?
Yes, absolutely. Just to explain, let's go back to my... So by default, the default setting in Dux Soup is that if somebody responds to you, then hopefully Dux Soup will pick that response up, all things being equal. And here under your Dux Soup options, you see here you have the exclude blacklisted profiles. That basically means that Dux Soup will, if somebody responds to your campaign, they will not receive any further follow-ups in that particular campaign. Now, of course, you could enroll them into a new campaign. So here, for example, somebody's responded here. If I wanted them to continue to receive my follow-up messages that were still in the queue, I can hit the reflow button here, because they may have responded with something like a thumbs up or something like that. Reflow would then basically release them to receive further queued messages in this campaign. But that would only mean that they won't receive follow-ups against this campaign. If I then went to their profile and enrolled them into a new campaign, they would then receive those follow-ups. Because depending on their response, I may have prepared another campaign for them that would then be suitable for them to get. So yeah, the default is that you exclude the blacklisted profiles, which is effectively, if you go to our support pages, you can look up what blacklisting is, and there's an explanation on there. But essentially, what it means is, if you've either given them a blacklisted tag or they've got a responded tag, then they wouldn't receive further messages against that campaign.
Thank you. Last question. Does it make more sense to track the percentage or the numbers in the funnel flow?
I would suggest the percentage always. The absolute numbers means nothing depending on your sample size. I mean, but yeah, I mean it's a combination of the two, really, isn't it? I mean, if we go back to our funnel flow here, I mean, I'm only looking here at a very small sample size, and I can say, great, yeah, 24%, but that's only 6 people. But I've got a small sample size here. I could have enrolled 2 people and got 1 positive response, and I'd be saying, yeah, I've got 50%. That's great. You need to look at both. You need to combine the two and think about what's a reasonable sample size. I mean, I would be, absolute minimum for all of these. In the real world, I would be looking at 25 enrollments. Sorry, in the real world, I'd be looking at least 3 figures, so at least 100 enrollments and invitations to have any sort of valid data. 25 is too small a sample. I'd be looking at least 100 people and let it run over at least a month. But then, then you would need to look at the percentage of number of people who've accepted. And remember that this is built up, this is based upon me targeting 2nd and 3rd degree connections. So everybody I've enrolled has also been invited. Remember, if you enroll a 1st degree connection into a campaign, they're not going to get an invite. They're just going to get the follow-up messages. So just bear that in mind as well. But if you're looking at having some valid data, at least 100 people, and I would also say at least a month, and then you've got something to build on from there over time. This is not a short-term click your fingers and it's done. This is something that you need to invest some time in order to have some valid data going forward.
Thank you. That's it from me.
Excellent. All right, I'll just a quick reminder then. 2 weeks time, some wonderful Dux Soup prizes up for grabs, and also how to send some festive greetings to your existing LinkedIn contacts, connections. We're going to be joined by it's going to be myself and Jin and Beth, who's from our marketing team. So a new voice on the webinars in 2 weeks time as well. You can always book additional consultation time, either booster or technical calls via the website or via our support team. I will leave that page up, which has got the email address of our amazing support team on it, and I'll leave it to Jin to sign us off, and I'll speak to everybody in 2 weeks time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Giles. Thank you everyone for joining us. And if you have any further questions, please contact Dux Soup support via our website, live chat, or this email, which you can see now. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.